So here's the agenda for today. We had the little short networking session this morning from 8:30 to 9. Let us know if you'd like for that to be, excuse me, to be more guided, I guess, as opposed to sort of on your own for future opportunity days that we do. We're gonna, excuse me, goodness gracious, we're gonna start off with just a very quick overview. I have a couple slides for those, especially that are not familiar with the Ohio Federal Research Network, and also a slide that'll talk about briefly about our upcoming round 6 here, which solicitation should be out hopefully somewhere around the end of February. We're trying to target that date. And then we have two outstanding, or actually 3 outstanding speakers. There's 2 listed here, but we do have an additional individual from the National Air and Space Intelligence Center that'll be speaking, and I'll do their introductions shortly. We would ask that you hold all your questions until the 2 or 3 speakers are finished. So at 10 o'clock, from 10 to 10:30, we'll have a Q&A session. And since we're all here on sort of the same platform, we don't have you separated off into rooms or to some other type of platform that I would ask that obviously while the speakers are talking, you please make sure that your microphones are on mute so that they can get through their presentations. And then when we get time for the Q&A, it'll be your probably choice as to whether or not you want to use the chat, or you would just raise your hand and Emma will call on you, and you can feel free to ask your question in the person. And then we have a quick excuse me, opportunity review at the end of the day, and that I think will be interesting to those of you looking for phase 1s or direct to phase 2s that are currently BAs that are currently out there right now. So next slide, please. So quick introductions. That's me at the top there. I'm your MC for today. Some thanks to our Parallax team, Emma Warner. You've already heard from her a little bit. Karen Posey, one of our consultants, and she's got her camera on, so you can see Karen. You can wave to everybody, Karen.
Good morning.
Becky Mesher, Jess Pacheco, and Sophia Cipriani. So are some of the other key individuals that helped out getting this thing put together for this morning. Of course, our event speakers, as I mentioned, Dr. Vaya, Stephen Zeck, and Julie Spears. And then the opportunity review here at the end of the day will be by Dr. Kate Gilpin, who is our Director of Discovery and Engagement for the Academic Partnership Engagement Experiment. And she'll probably talk more about that as well. I put in the chat the OFRN website. If you'd like the Apex website, just to ask, and we can get that for you too. So if you'd like to take a look at that. And of course, all of our government partners. So Air Force Research Labs, the Navy Medical Research Unit in Dayton, NASA Glenn up in Cleveland, and of course, the National Air and Space Intelligence Center and the Ohio National Guard. So next slide, please. So some quick news in case you haven't heard. So Parallax and the Ohio Aerospace Institute have merged. They're still effectively 2 separate 501c3 nonprofits, but they will be integrated throughout the organization. So it really sort of doubles the capability that we have here in the state of Ohio when it comes to reaching out to both industry, government, and academia to be able to try to help connect you to opportunities that will advance your technology. If you'd like more information on that, please let us know and we can always follow up. Next slide, please. So just very quickly on what Parallax is, Parallax Advanced Research Corporation is. So it's what we call a triple helix organization. And if you look at the graphic on the left-hand side, you kind of get an idea of what that is. It's that bringing together that academia, industry, and government separate entities out there to support, engage, and collaborate, and to be able to hopefully advance technologies that are either in the lab or in industry, and be able to get those brought out to solve problems for our government or our industry partners for that. So next slide. So just real quickly, this is a summary of kind of where we're at for the Ohio Federal Research Network. Those arrows that are the 3 big arrows that are at the top and the left and the right side of the slide just have some summaries based on what is inside those circles. So for research and development, so far, the Ohio Federal Research Network in the first 5 rounds has been able to garner over $350 million in follow-on federal funding from the original investment that the state of Ohio made, which is just a little more than $50 million over these first 5 rounds so far. And then on the right-hand side, you can see that so far we've funded 35 projects during those 5 rounds and engaged 97 business partners and 21 universities and colleges around the state of Ohio. So really think that we're doing some really great work for the state of Ohio. This graphic actually, just for full disclosure, was borrowed from the Ohio Chamber of Commerce. And they did their technology committee did a review a couple of years ago. And this those 3 circles and some of the text that's next to those circles is what was highlighted by the Ohio Chamber of Commerce is what we need to do here in the state of Ohio if we're going to be more successful when it comes to moving technology and solving problems that our partners have. Next slide, please. So I put in the chat earlier this morning the link to this interactive PDF, which is on the right side half of your slide, your screen, excuse me. Round 5, which is the round that we are currently under and will end here in June, at the end of June, had these federal partners' areas of interest listed on the left-hand side of your slide. And the reason really that I show this is for a couple of reasons. One is that we were very focused on advanced air mobility and trying to move that forward here in the state of Ohio over these first 5 rounds. So a lot of the funded projects that you see here are either on the right hand side, and if you go to that link, you can click on each one of those individual projects and it will give you additional background information on the team, what academic partners, industry partners were part of that team, and then also the type of technology that they were working on for advanced air mobility. Now if you go to the next slide, so as we move forward into round 6, these are sort of general areas of interest that we are focusing on. So I wouldn't say we're getting away from advanced air mobility because I think that's still important to the state of Ohio. But I think there are some other really exciting projects that are happening. And I have a guess that Dr. Vaya and Steve Zek might touch on some of these things, but obviously hypersonics, high power energy conversion, the digital engineering is it's that old saying, you can't swing a cat and hit an engineer that's not talking about digital stuff out there right now, I think. So these are areas, and of course commercial space operations is huge. So unless you've been living under a rock, you probably have heard that of a recent consortium that's going to be building a terrestrial facility here at the Ohio State Airport and partnering with Ohio State and several other companies here in the state of Ohio to be able to operate a commercial space station. So, and then of course, quantum technologies. So, and like it says, that integration of sensors and communications or processes. So these are very general areas that we're going to be looking at potentially for teams to propose some of the solutions or technologies that they think can address some of these particular issues. Now, obviously, there will be more detail in the official solicitation when it comes out. These are just sort of high-level offerings for you to be able to get an idea of where we're thinking about going here for round 6. Next slide. So some upcoming events. So there's if you haven't been checking your calendar, here's a couple of things in February, and then in March, as we move forward, the Global Aerospace Summit in May in Cleveland. So I'll let you take a look at those for just a second. All right, next slide, please. And Emma, what did I miss on event features and logistics?
No, I think you pretty much covered it. I'll just kind of reemphasize, there's a few of us on here, myself, Becky Mesher, and Jess Pacheco. If you have any technical questions or problems you run into, feel free to reach out to any of us. And then likewise, we'll be monitoring the chat this morning. So once we get into the Q&A session, feel free to drop questions in there and we can get them to our speakers. And one other note I wanted to make is we're going to have a survey once this meeting closes. So we just encourage you to provide any feedback or suggestions you have for our next opportunity day. So yeah, back over to you, Mark.
Okay, fantastic.